How's it going, everybody? Mr. D here, and in this video, along with the next two, we're going to be talking about first and second derivative tests in order to determine intervals of increasing and decreasing, and then also concavity. So let's recap a few things. First off, our first derivative test. If our first derivative, f prime, is increasing, then our derivative value is going to be positive, so greater than 0. If our function is decreasing, our derivative f prime is negative, so it is less than 0. So here I can see a hypothetical graph, and I'm noticing that between a and c1, my first derivative is positive. Between c1 and c2, derivative is positive. c2, c3, my derivative is negative. c3, c4, my derivative is positive. c4 and c5, in between those, we are negative. And between c5 and b, we are negative. Now we can use this to kind of figure out where maxes or mins occur. And those will occur anytime our derivative changes from positive to negative. So right here, I'm seeing we have a change from positive to negative. Right here, we have a change from negative to positive. Right here, we have a change from positive to negative. So at these three instances, we have either a max or a min. Anytime we go from a positive, so an uphill value, to a negative, a downhill value, if we switch from going uphill to downhill, that means we've attained a maximum. If we go from negative to positive, so downhill to uphill, that means we hit a minimum. Over here, yet again, we've hit a maximum because we switch from positive to negative. Now, when we're doing these, we can also get specific max and min points by knowing the intervals on which we're increasing and decreasing. So, for instance, right here, if I know I'm increasing from -1 to 1 and then decreasing from 1 to 3, that tells me right here at that moment of 1, I'm going to have a maximum value. Well, if I wanted to figure out the specific maximum value, I could just plug in 1 for my function. Now, looking at the graph, I can see that, yeah, my x value of 1 does create a max. Also here, we decrease from 1 to 3, and then we're increasing from 3 to 5. So at that value of 3, it's when we switch from decreasing to increasing. Well, if I switch from decreasing to increasing, that means I hit a minimum. Anytime we're evaluating these graphs, we always want to find our critical points, our maxes, our mins, and within max and mins, we want to know, are they local or relative, or are they absolute? Local or relative means it's the minimum just for that area. So, for instance, right here, I've got a minimum just for this region. Absolute means it is the highest or lowest value for the entire graph on that interval. All right, let's take a look. We're going to find and simplify the derivative of this polynomial here. We're going to find the endpoints and critical points. Well, there's no endpoints here because there's no interval given, but we can certainly find critical points. Show the first derivative test, and then increasing and decreasing intervals. All right, here we go. Well, let's see. First and foremost, just looking at this function, a positive quartic, I'm expecting it to look something like that, kind of like a W. So let's find the derivative here. Straight up power rule, 4x cubed minus 12x squared. Cool. Well, then from there, I can go through and figure out when is this thing equal to 0. So if I set that equal to 0, I need to solve this equation. I'm going to factor out a GCF of 4x squared. Oops. So that'll leave me x minus 3, which tells me I'm going to have x equals 0 and x equals 3 as critical points. Now we should also check when does our derivative not exist. But for this one, if I'm looking for when does this thing not exist, this is just a polynomial, so there's really no domain restrictions. So there won't be any instances for this particular problem where our derivative does not exist. All right, so we know things are going to happen to our function at 0 and at 3. Those are the x values for the critical points. What I want to know is if I looked at some number less than 0, maybe like -1, -2, whatever, is my derivative going to be positive or negative? If I looked at some value in between 0 and 3, what's going on? If I looked at some value greater than 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in to the factored form because that's going to make mental math nice and easy. Now I'm going to figure out what is going on with my derivative at each point. So if I plugged in, let's say, some value back here, I'll plug in -1. -1 squared is 1, so this would be 4 times -4. That's going to be a negative value. So that means my graph is going down at that point, downhill. If I plugged in some value between 0 and 3, I'll plug in 1. 1 squared is 1 times 4, and then 1 minus 3, that'd be a -2. So positive times a negative, I'm getting a negative yet again. So my graph is continuing to go downhill. And then I'll choose some number bigger than 3. I'll choose 5. 5 squared is 25 times 4, 100. And then this would be 5 minus 3, that's positive. So we're going to get a positive result, which means it is then increasing. So based on that, I'm noticing right here would have to be where I have a minimum, because we're switching from negative to positive. And we've got a picture of what the graph looks like. So this is what the graph looks like, and you'll notice we've got a minimum down here. This does not count as a minimum because we don't switch from decreasing to increasing. That switch happens down here. So if we wanted to list our extremes, it would really just be this 3 comma -17. So we'd say we had an absolute min of -17. Oops, forgot the 1. When x equals 3. At x equals 3. Now, if I remember correctly, we might have the work for this. No, we don't. All right. So then let's get into our increasing, decreasing intervals. Remember, the justification for these is always going to be our derivative and its relation to 0. So decreasing means less than 0, negative. Increasing means greater than 0, positive. We're increasing from 3 to infinity. That's when we're going uphill. We are decreasing from negative infinity up to 0, and then again from 0 to 3. So negative infinity to 0, and then 0 to 3. All right, well, let's get into concavity. Concavity explains how the curve bends. So we have concave down, concave up. Concave down means it kind of looks like a frowny shape. Concave up means it kind of looks like a smiley shape. We can find concavity by using our second derivative. So if you have a negative second derivative, that means you have concave down. If you have a positive second derivative, you are concave up. If at any point your second derivative is 0, that means the original function would have been linear. The reason for that is if this black line right here is my original function, the derivative of that, first derivative, would just be the slope, so some rational number, and then the second derivative, well, the derivative of any constant number is always going to be 0. Now, anytime we switch from concave down to concave up, that moment where the function changes, that is going to be called an inflection point. And we're going to find out later that's what happens when your second derivative is equal to 0. So your second derivative will equal 0 if you have a linear function linear portion, or you're looking at an inflection point. So right here we have concave down, then we have concave up, then we have concave down yet again, and this is just linear. Let me use a different color for that. Bam, there we go. All right, so let's take a look at a second derivative test. We've got a picture down below so we can kind of figure out, you know, it's not hard to tell. Concave up, concave down, concave up. Where does it look like a smile? Where does it look like a frown? But we need to figure out exactly where those little inflection points are. And that's what we're going to do here. So the way we do that is by using the second derivative test. We'll define the second derivative. First, we need the first derivative. Let's go ahead and get that straight up power rule. 4 times 1/2 would be 2x cubed minus 6x. Second derivative then would be 6x minus 6. Now if I set that equal, ooh, forgot a squared, hey-oo. Now if I set that equal to 0 and solve it, I can yank out a GCF of 6. We're going to end up getting x equals 1 and x equals -1. I can verify that on my graph where it kind of looks like, you know, about the 1 and -1 point. That's when we switch from concave down to concave up. But again, let's just be certain here to verify. So what I'm going to do is plagiarize myself. Let me copy that second derivative function over here. We know things happen at -1 and +1. So let's see what's going on in these little regions. We're basically doing a sign analysis here. I'm going to plug in some number less than -1. I'll try -2. -2 squared is 4. 4 minus 1, that's a positive value. So this right here would be positive, meaning it is concave up. Let's plug in a value in between. I'm going to plug in 0. 0 squared minus 1 is negative, which means we are concave down in that region. If I plugged in some number bigger than 1, let's try 2. 2 squared minus 1, that's positive. Then we're going to be looking at concave up. So we're going to be concave up from -infinity to -1, and then from 1 to infinity. The reason for that is my second derivative is positive, greater than 0. It's going to be concave down between -1 and +1. The reason for that, my second derivative is negative, less than 0. And again, we can confirm that by looking at the graph. All right, that is it for this video. In the next few, we're going to be going a little bit more in depth on some more challenging examples, but we're really going to focus on finding those inflection points as well. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Send me an email. And as always, good luck, have fun, be safe, roll tide.